Knightline is brought to you by the Dever Team, your source for New Smyrna Beach real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Go to www.thedeverteam.com and call UCF alumni Travis Dever for all your New Smyrna Beach needs. 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636.
Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios, and this is Knightline 215 from the award-winning Knightline Sports Network. Joining me as always,
Trace Trylko. Hello, everyone. Countdown to the Gasparilla Bowl and early signing day. We're talking UCF football with Jason Beatty of Knights 24/7. One-on-one exclusives with Terrence Plummer and Jordan McRae in camp with the XFL's Tampa Bay Vipers. Talking men's basketball with Ben Stout. And this from at Lonely Bee UCF. We got decommits. We got transfers. Our pets' heads are falling off. Is it time to freak out? Yes, that's an Ask Knightline. But first...
Changes. Turn and face the strain. Changes. Don't wanna be a richer man. Changes. Turn and face the strain. Changes. It's gonna have to be a different man. Time may change me, but I can't trace time.
All right, it's a time of change for UCF football's players entering the transfer portal, and for the first time in the Josh Heupel era, we have a coaching change, and the early signing period is upon us. Knightline's deep dive into recruiting is just ahead, but let's talk about the changes.
Changes.
Yeah.
Fun tune. Well, you know what? No one likes change, right?
Well, yeah, it is what it is.
Two seasons, Josh Heupel kept this coaching staff together, and that is very unique.
And we were lucky to have it together that long, to be honest with you, because a lot of times it doesn't happen and last that long. So
fans are funny, right? We're upset that Jeff Lebby has left for Lane Kiffin's staff at Ole Miss, but we're happy that Kevin Smith has joined Lane in Oxford, Mississippi, after being with him in Boca Raton at FAU. So, you know.
I'm happy for both of them. I mean, I'm happy for Lebby, too. I'm bummed about Lebby because he's like a friend. So I could call him, I could text him, all kinds of stuff.
You can still do these things.
Well, I can, and now I have a guy that I can call and text on a SEC freaking coaching staff. But just, that part of it. He would stop by our tailgate in the mornings if we were there before, a lot of other people were and all kinds of stuff.
Good old boy. A good old boy.
Totally good dude.
Yeah.
Like, I met him the spring game of their first year here, and just we became friends, and I'm happy for him. I mean, he's going to get a huge raise. He's going to get to do the actual job of an offensive coordinator there, which he really didn't do too much of here because Heupel called the plays more than anybody else. And so I don't know about Lane Kiffin, if he'll give him that responsibility right out or not, but I think it's great for him and his family. I mean, and I told him, I sent him a text and I said, hey, it's all good. I don't blame you. You got to set your family up for the future. So that's what it is. All right,
let me ask you a couple questions. You think this is the only departure on the coaching staff?
It is so far.
I mean, do you think it will be the only one, or do you think there's another one or two?
I would hope that's the only one. I would hate to lose really anybody else, especially at this time. I mean, now is the time. If I guess if you're going to do it, I would rather get it over with and not be in the spring or something when we have the recruits here and all that stuff.
Has your position, and I'm not sure I know your exact position, so I'll ask it. Do you like early signing day, and especially now, after you've seen it play out for a couple of seasons? Because this is something, when we've seen Lebby go to Ole Miss, and then suddenly you got a couple of decommits. And I know it's the nature of the game and how it's played, but
it is, and that's it's kind of a sad part about the way that it works when a coach leaves. I mean, you never know if he was recruiting on your dime for his next job or whatever. It almost seems like that most of the time.
Hours later.
Yeah, because, we had a wide receiver that we were excited about decommit, and all of a sudden he signs with Ole Miss. Jeff Lebby was a hell of a recruiter, and that's one of the things that I don't think people realize. That's going to be the biggest loss, to be honest with you, with him.
Well, that was one of the questions. Let me just steal it right now. At @blackgold_Ed, who's asked us questions before, who's our best football recruiter? Would you say it was Jeff Lebby?
I would say it was probably a cross or a tie with Jeff Lebby and Randy Shannon. Randy Shannon, obviously, for the defensive side, is the guy, and an incredible recruiter. I mean, he gets guys that probably we shouldn't get, or if he wasn't here, we wouldn't be capable of getting. So obviously, that's a big deal. And either way, I guess some fans pay attention to the offensive side of the ball more than they do the defense or whatever, as far as like being excited about recruits and stuff like that. They're all excited about, quarterbacks and wide receivers and all that, but they don't think about defensive linemen and corners, and linebackers and all that stuff as much, but both guys have done an excellent job. I think that Josh Heupel does a good job as well. Coach Ellerby, the offensive line coach, is a great recruiter as well. I think he has an opportunity to step up, Ellerby, as far as recruiting for the rest of the offense and not just for the offensive line. He does both. And there's guys, the thing is, the way this all works, and if people don't know, each coach has an area of the country that they're assigned to for recruiting or, position groups or whatever. Jeff Lebby was the quarterback, wide receiver, and in the Florida, Georgia, Alabama-ish area. So that was his. I think Texas may have been one of his too, because he's from there and he knows a lot of stuff like that. But that's pretty much, the way that works. And so people have their areas and their territories and what they're supposed to recruit in, and they do. So I'm not sure, how the rest of it really breaks down. But I know Randy Shannon is obviously very active in the Miami area because that's where he made, his news basically growing up and playing and coaching and all that stuff. So
you mentioned Coach Ellerby. In just a few moments, we talk with Jason Beatty of Knights 24/7, who covers recruiting and UCF, and he's got an article that we touch on potential directions UCF can go with replacing Jeff Lebby, and not that he ranked them, but the first name that he mentions in his article is Coach Ellerby as a possible replacement.
I think if you wanted just to give somebody that offensive coordinator title, and that's what had happened with Lebby here, because really he was the quarterback's coach. He had a lot to do with the offense, obviously, but the offense isn't going to change. It's Josh Heupel's offense. He didn't take his playbook with him, and we'll never see it again. You know what I'm saying?
Where have I heard that before?
Obviously,
the recruiting files.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, that was a couple of seasons ago.
Obviously, everybody is well aware of what we do and all that stuff. That's not going to change. Nothing is going to change with this offense.
Well, let me ask you this question then. Might this be an opportunity for Coach Heupel to say, you know what, I do want an offensive coordinator who's play calling. It's an opportunity.
It would be an opportunity, but I don't think that you're going to get that from him. I really, really don't think that he will do that. I just feel like there's guys that just really want to have control. And I think that that's part of being a new coach. I still think he's a new coach. Y'all are saying that he's past the honeymoon period and all this stuff.
He's got one more game for me on new coach.
Okay. Well,
after that, I'm not going to consider him new
anymore.
That's for me.
He's not a tenured head coach that's got, 15, 20 years as a head coach. So I think he's still learning as a head coach. And I think sometimes it takes time for these guys to relinquish some of that control, especially because he was an offensive coordinator. He was a quarterback. He's always been a guy that's been in control. And it's hard for guys to do that. Hard for any coach, I think, to do that. So it is an opportunity to do that if he wants to. But he's the only one that can make that decision. And it would have to be, obviously then, it would have to be somebody that was very in tune with what, he is trying to do and in tune with the type of players that we're recruiting and all that stuff. And I don't think you would want to go changing the offense completely. Yes, there can be obvious, changes that would make things better, obviously. Especially after this season and the way that people complain about Josh Heupel's calling and why does he do this and why does he do that. Obviously, there's room for improvement, but I think you don't want to get too far away from what you've started, though, especially with a freshman quarterback that is excelling big time in the program as it is and will continue to do that, hopefully make that massive sophomore jump that we've seen before in this system exactly the way that it is. And nothing's going to change because Jeff Lebby's gone.
It's a point you make with a conversation with Jason Beatty in reference to names that we've seen enter the transfer portal this week alone, defensive back Joe Kelly and offensive lineman James Collins. But your point with Jason is who? No disrespect, and once a night, always a night, but who?
Yeah, exactly. None of these players that put us that put their names into the transfer portal are going to hurt us. None of these hurt. These are players that have been here, and they, there's a backstory on a lot of them as well that maybe a lot of people don't understand. Bacote was injured and never really, he's a Scott Frost guy. He would have been a senior this year, so I think he may have had a red shirt and a medical red shirt, so he has another year, so he can go someplace and play for a year. He just never, after he broke his femur, I believe it was, way back, he never was able to come back from that. And then this Ohio State guy that transferred in last year, I believe, dude has been through 3 knee surgeries.
That's hard.
So, yeah, it's really hard. And on a team that has really good players in his spot, a linebacker, your opportunity is very limited. And especially a guy coming back from 3 knee surgery. He retired, then decided that he wanted to play again, and now, he was here, didn't break the lineup, didn't break into the starting lineup, and now wants to go and test the waters someplace else. Perfectly fine. But you have to remember, there are backstories with these guys, and, some of them, the only film that they have is either practice film or literally, on special teams. The corner guy, whatever his name was, you talked about him earlier. Joe Kelly. I don't even know this guy. Like, I had to look him up. A lot of these guys, most casual fans, and then some of us that I would consider, that we watch very closely, I didn't know who this guy was at all. And I looked at the film that he provided for his recruitment elsewhere, and it's him playing on special teams. And that's it. There's nothing in a game where he was playing at all, except on special teams.
I think what a more casual fan or just regular fans may see is, well, that's 1, 2, 3, that's 5 guys that have entered the transfer portal. Who have we gotten in the transfer portal coming to use? It's a time, we said it off the top, of change, and it used to be a traditional February National Signing Day. Now you have an early signing period in December. Remember, if there is one benefit, let's put a little sunshine on this, of not being in that American Athletic Conference championship game, is it has allowed coaches out on the recruiting trail a week sooner than they would have typically gotten. But you have the early signing day. You've got this traditional February date that still exists. So if you don't get everybody lined up, and then you've got this transfer portal, which you've used this term, and everyone's using this term, free agency. It's just a different time to prepare and restock.
And I talked to Jason Beatty about this later at the end, where I say, I ask him, has it basically created free agency, or has it basically made it where we're just seeing it now? because the transfer portal really never came up until last year when somebody actually started talking about it, and now there's trackers and everything else. You can, on 24/7 Sports, you can search transfer portal, and it's the first thing that comes up, and you can look and see everybody that's on there. All these people were still transferring around teams before. Now it's just more visual where people can actually see, besides coaches and, ADs and stuff, and staff members, you can see it now. You just never were able to see it before. Nothing has changed as far as that goes. It's just like the way that you see it. I can't think of the word that I'm trying to think of. You can see it more now than you could before. It's been going on in college sports for a long time now.
Do you think that, so we go back to the transfer portal, and the most highly touted name was Brandon Wimbush, and we certainly had a different impression.
How did that work out?
Well, and that's my question. Do you think that may discourage some transfers from coming to UCF, seeing how it worked out with Brandon Wimbush? If they aren't, dialed into the UCF program and they see a high-profile name like him come over from Notre Dame, who starts the first game of the season, loses that job, do you think that discourages anybody from coming over, especially a quarterback?
It probably does discourage some people, but those people have to kick up their game a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, obviously he wasn't good enough to do what we needed him to do. He just wasn't. He didn't meet the expectations that our offense needed somebody to play. Dylan Gabriel was the better player, period. And that's what happens. That's just the way that it goes. Sometimes the grass is not always greener on the other side. And that's what people always need to remember, whether it's your job or whatever. Yeah, you may hate your job. You may go to work every day and you're depressed the second you hit your seat, the cold car seat at this time of year, getting ready to go to work. And you might hate it all day while you're there, but sometimes there's benefits at every company or place of work that you're not going to get other places. So you test the waters, you may jump, and it's not any better. It may be worse. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's not. But it's the same way with college football. It's the same way with everything in life, to be honest with you. The grass is not always greener on the other side.
Mentioned Brandon Wimbush. He says that he's not going to be available to play in the bowl game, the Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa.
The one play that he would have played?
He prepares.
Maybe?
For,
who cares?
The possibility of the NFL draft.
I mean, really? He would have played maybe one play. Who cares?
And I know fans, we talked about it last week, whether we would see a Gabe Davis, whether we would say a Neville Clark or other names. And this is usually the segment where we go through sound bites. There haven't been media availabilities. Just received, as we're recording, an update from UCF football on the media schedule. Initially, there was going to be a media availability Monday. That is now off the schedule. It's been replaced with a Tuesday media availability, in which we'll have Coach Heupel and student athletes. And then Wednesday now has an update that says signing day press conference with Coach Heupel. Time to be announced. Thursday is when the team arrives at the Hilton in downtown Tampa for its bowl trip.
You just gave away the hotel information, Trace.
Well, we can record that again.
No, it's all right. But
Friday,
somebody was going to be looking for it anyway. Now there's going to be all these people standing outside just because Trace said it right here on Knightline.
That may not have been the best decision
right there. No, it's fine.
Friday's another media availability with Coach Heupel. That's when they have their community service project student athletes are involved in. Saturday is when I think I might be able to get over to Tampa for that media availability, and then that's when they have their beach invasion event, and then no availability on Sunday, and of course the game on Monday. So
I'm looking forward to it.
It's now getting to it. It's just funny. It's starting to feel like bowl time, but really we've got all this signing day stuff that we have to pay attention to as well.
Right, and signing day for me is exciting. I'll be at work, but it will be on my computer screen, and I will be watching that as it happens. I will be obviously doing my work at work, but that will
because you love your job.
Well, I like my job. I wouldn't say I love it, but like I said before, the grass is not greener on the other side always. But I'll definitely be paying attention. I can't wait to see what happens. There's going to be surprises. There's going to be surprises either way. There's going to be guys that we didn't expect to get that we get. There's going to be guys that we expected to get that we don't get. So that's the exciting part about the signing day, the early one or the late one. There was something that I wanted to say, and obviously if I don't... People talk a lot about how I interrupt. I interrupt sometimes because I'm going to forget what I want to say if I don't do that. So I'm
used to you.
Yeah, that's my excuse, though. So now I wanted to interrupt, and I was really... I do consciously think about this, people. I really try not to interrupt people. But my mind moves very quickly, and I'll forget. I mean, I'm getting older. I've taken a lot of hits to the head. I mean, whatever. You can make fun of that all you want, but I forget stuff, and now I've completely forgot what I wanted to talk about.
Well, you used the word surprises, and Sunday, and we talk about this with Jason as well, and he'll go into it a little bit more, but this is a name that looks like he may be decommitting, verbal commit to Arizona State and coming to UCF instead. Of course, you got to wait till all the ink is dry on these things. Paul Rubelt, 6'10", 285-pound offensive lineman.
If you have not, and if you don't normally check out people's tape, their high school tape, I would implore you to do this one. There is a site called Huddle, H-U-D-L-E or something like that.
I think that's right, H-U-D-L.
It's
H-U-D-L, right?
It's not spelled correct. Yeah, H-U-D-L, Huddle. And you can go to that website and you can see the tape from these high school players that they give to their highlight tapes. They're not.
Is it a subscription site or anybody?
It
can
is,
log on?
but you can get to it. You can see certain things. You can always get to it through the message board sites that are out there. You can always get to it through Rivals. You can get through it through 24/7 and stuff like that. But go check out this guy's tape. This guy is an absolute freaking monster. He is a very big guy. He's the biggest player on the field at all times. There's no one bigger than 6'10", and I'm sure he'll put on 285 pounds. He's going to put on some weight here. So
Jason lists him as 285 in his article on Paul's Twitter handle. He puts himself at 300. So we'll be interested. He put it as exactly 300, which makes me a little...
He may be. I mean...
So he had offers from Florida State, Minnesota, Rutgers, Massachusetts, and Buffalo. He had verbally committed to Arizona State. According to Jason's article, ASU was trying to... Do you know this term? Blue shirt? Are you familiar with this term?
There's so many shirts.
They wanted to blue shirt him, according to Jason's article here. Instead of having him sign a national letter of intent during early signing period, they wanted to do this blue shirt rule, which would allow the school to put unrecruited athletes on scholarship once they arrive, but count them against the next year's scholarship total as long as they don't play.
Yeah.
And apparently he didn't like that, being recruited by Coach Heupel and offensive line coach Glenn Ellerby.
Yeah. Well, and there's certain reasons for that sometimes, and I don't know what that reason is for him. I don't know academically where he qualifies at and all that stuff. I mean, there could be issues there. There are... situations where football players or basketball players, whatever, don't qualify academically, and I don't know that that's the case with this kid. It could be anything. There could be lots of things. I mean, he may not get along with the head coach there or something. I mean,
3-star prospect, ranked 68th offensive tackle in the 2020 recruiting cycle. It would make him UCF's second highest rated recruit, according to Jason, behind wide receiver commit Jasias Cradle.
Yeah. And yeah.
Fourth verbal commitment from UCF on the offensive line.
Well, I can tell you that this guy is something special. And like I said, go to Huddle, try to see his video, or just spell his name so people can. You have it written down someplace.
Rubelt, Rubelt.
Yeah, he's German. He's a German dude. So. Go and just Google his name, and you'll be able to see some video, I'm sure. The guy just bowls over people. I mean, he literally pushes them down most of the time onto the ground, like throws them down onto the ground, and half the time they don't even get up. Like, if he doesn't do well in college football, he has an excellent opportunity in pro wrestling because that's what he's doing on the field.
What would you like to see him weigh at 6'10"? If let's go with his figure, he lists himself at 300, and again, Jason's got him at 285.
310, 320,
but with more muscle, more definition.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the. I mean, he's fit. You can tell he's not a fat guy, obviously, with being 6'10". So 285, I think, is a little low personally for a guy that's 6'10". So I would think that you will probably see him 310, 320, maybe 325, maybe even bigger than that. He's a big dude. I mean, he's got a lot of mass and muscle gain that can happen at the college level because it's a completely different thing. You come out of high school skinny. I mean, you do. You really don't know in high school unless you've got a school that is a private organization that has a nutritionist and everything else, which I would only think like places like the IMG Academy and stuff like that may have people like that. But you come to college and they're going to tell you what to eat and what not to eat. In fact, most of the time they're going to hand your food to you, and it's going to be that's what you eat. You don't eat anything else. In college, it was that's the way that it was for me at Kansas. They gave us our food. We didn't eat anything that they didn't hand us. So that was the thing. Everybody had an individual diet for themselves. And I know that this is happening at UCF as well. It may not be that tight, especially, when these offensive linemen, especially coming out of high school, need to gain a ton of weight.
What was on your diet?
It was like chicken and pasta most of the time. I mean, that's pretty much what it was in protein shakes.
Probably for a lot of guys.
I probably would, and salad and, stuff like that. I would probably drink 3 protein shakes a day. And then we had a workout drink. We had a practice drink that was like, like a sports drink type thing that was mixed up with whatever they wanted to put in it, to be honest with you. Our workout drink back then was awesome. It was this stuff called Ultimate Orange. You can't get it anymore. They don't make it anymore because it was so freaking crazy.
What was in it?
It had a bunch of that ephedra stuff in it, which they don't really allow anymore because it would just... I loved it though. It was like liquid fuel. That stuff you would just be crazy working out. So they don't do that anymore though. Can't do that. Interesting thing, and this doesn't have anything to do with UCF sports, but Major League Baseball this week said that they're not going to test for marijuana anymore on the players.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's very interesting, and I like it. I think it's a great deal. I don't think that needs to be tested for anymore because players are getting around it anyway. It's been a thing for a very long time in professional sports and college sports that a lot of those players use some form of a marijuana product, whether it be CBD that doesn't have the psychedelic effects or, regular weed that does. So has a big medicinal purpose. So I hope that they're going to relax on that on a lot of things.
So this is episode...
Good for Major League Baseball.
Number 215. Of course, that number is just your regular weekly Knightline. It doesn't include the Knightline Nows, the Knightline Extras, but let's go back on the Wayback Machine. Was it 1 or 2 times we did a recruiting signing day special? You remember? Yeah. Remember way back when?
That was funny.
We do 1 or 2 of them?
Well, we did, I think, a couple of them.
Can you still find that?
It's probably on YouTube someplace. It was bad. It was in the garage, the first one. Remember, we were talking about it, and I was like, it was that day. I was like, yeah, dude, I can do video. We can do it. And I set it up in my garage. We had screen and lights.
What year was that? Which recruiting class was that?
It was probably the first one that we were doing this
First Frost one, maybe?
No. It was way before that. No.
I'd be curious to watch that.
Yeah,
again.
We've been doing this like 5 years.
You can find that on YouTube?
I'm sure it's on there. Yeah, unfortunately. Things don't go away on the internet. I wish they did sometimes. That would be one thing that... I mean, I just was trying to do different things, and we had a couple of them here where we had people... it was a thing that we did up until last year, really. Last year, I think, was the first time we didn't do one.
Yeah, we did the
we
football
had one with
preview.
Kyle, and we had Eric Kohler over here one time to do that in my living room, set up a thing.
I think we should do more of that.
We probably should. It's
time-consuming and labor-intensive.
It is, and I wanted to build like a set, to be honest with you, to make it a little bit better. that gear for doing video is expensive. It's a little bit easier now with the way that cell phones and stuff like that. But if you really want to do it right, which I wasn't doing it right, that gear gets expensive. And I kind of got to the point where I'm spending money on other things for this than buying a bunch of gear. So I would have loved to have studio quality cameras and all that stuff. But then that takes space that we don't have, and I would love to have a green screen, studio area, and I just don't have the room to do that. Where we could have like a virtual studio behind us, all kinds of stuff. And we may do that in the future. It is possible. There's things like what's the thing that UCF uses now to put out a lot of their
Twitch.
Twitch. There's Twitch now that you can do live stuff. The other thing was. At that time, it wasn't particularly easy to go live in a lot of these situations. We did it with YouTube, and it was okay.
Yeah, there was all sorts of experimenting. We did Sunday nights live.
Yeah.
We did those sometimes.
So
we used to take calls on Sunday nights during the summer.
Yeah, we did that every once in a while. Yeah. So things change. I mean, we may.
Maybe you should do
some
Twitch
more
this
stuff
week,
that later.
Reacting to recruiting or something.
I don't
Not
know.
to give you homework or a project.
Well,
but,
I've got a lot going on with all the shows on the Knightline Sports Network and all that stuff. I work pretty much every night doing this stuff, and you do too. People have no idea how much time we spend doing this.
well, I got a Monday off now. I don't need, I don't need to run out to UCF.
Exactly, yeah.
Speaking of which, and it's just part of what we do, but had an opportunity to go to Tampa Bay Vipers camp during the week. You remember Terrence Plummer, right?
Absolutely.
It was good catching up with him. He's been in the NFL. He's been in the CFL.
Okay, so now you have been to multiple things as well. You've gotten around as far as like all these different leagues talking to people. You haven't gone up to the CFL to talk to Brandon Alexander
No,
yet.
but we've had him on. But,
I really want you to go up there sometime and experience that.
Let me check the Knightline travel budget.
Exactly.
It's enough to get me to Plant City on my dime.
Right now
but-
is zero.
Yeah.
It's probably negative. So you went to the Apollos practice before. You saw how they were doing things. You've been to the NFL practices before. You've been to a lot of college type things before. Been to bowl games. How did the XFL and the way they're doing it now line up with all that stuff? Was it like the AAFL, or was it a little bit higher up?
And hard for
step
me
than
to
that,
say.
or-
It's something that I asked. I spoke with Terrence, Jordan McRae, Rennell Hall.
I know.
and
I
Matthew
heard
Wright.
I heard those interviews, and you guys will hear them later. I'm asking you.
It's hard for me to say in the brief amount of time I was there. Obviously, staff was very professional in the way they handled things. Struck me a little bit odd that they're in Plant City. They're basically practicing in an old baseball stadium. I believe it was the Cincinnati Reds used to practice long ago and far away in Plant City. So the locker room is, really more conducive to a Major League Baseball team. So it was, cramped quarters, and it appeared to be an open air outdoor makeshift weight room facility. So that was a little
Really,
bit,
an outdoor weight room.
about where you would think of where batting cages would be.
They had a weight room.
Yeah, so the weight room is assembled out in that
Did they
area.
have good equipment, or did it look
didn't-
like it was sourced from 1973?
I didn't study it to that level, but I did not see any rust appearing.
Okay,
So,
well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So we'll see. The players seem to feel, off mic. I said, they're paying you on the regular. There's no bounce checks or anything, So it's early. All these leagues start out with money. And
Well,
see,
I can tell you that there is a lot more money behind this thing than there was the AAFL.
But they're going to lose a lot
Yeah.
of money
Well,
for a long time. And you got to be prepared as Vince McMahon and his big WWE empire. You're not going to break even.
He's got a lot of money to lose, though. That guy.
He really wants to make it work.
When he comes on television and says that he's a billionaire, he ain't lying at all. So, and he's put a lot of money into this thing. So, and he's paying the players pretty good too. So, we'll see what happens with this. When does it start? The week after?
We're
the
about
Super
8 weeks
Bowl,
away.
right? The week after
February.
The Super Bowl?
I don't know the exact date. But
I can't
somewhere
wait.
in February.
I can't wait to see. There are some very strange rules that I'm looking forward
Yeah,
to.
and I asked the players about this as well. So with Plummer, he gets reunited with Coach Mark Trestman. That's the Vipers coach. Trestman coached the Toronto Argonauts to the 2017 CFL title.
Grey Cup.
And that's where Terrence Plummer was. And this time they are together in the relaunched XFL with the aforementioned Tampa Bay Vipers. And I caught up with Terrence, who is looking forward to what, and you'll hear him say it, seems like it's going to be a very memorable 2020 for him.
So talk about this opportunity with the XFL.
I'm just appreciative of it. It's another opportunity for me to do something that I really love and enjoy. I was in Canada for the last 2 years. I did that. I was in the NFL, but I've been blessed to be able to play football for like 5 years after college, so I just want to continue to do it. I'm thankful for Coach Trestman and for the organization, Vince McMahon, for making this league. Just very grateful.
Is it true you were an Apollo for a day?
Yes, sir.
An Orlando Apollo for a day. What happened there?
It was a crazy instance. So I was signed to play for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I got hurt last year, so I wasn't ready to go up there. But eventually my knee came around, and the Apollos were looking for some linebacker help. They called me, said, "Hey man, we're gonna have an opportunity down here. Just pass your physical. You be on the team." I go in the physical. The doctor says, "Hey man, we can't finish the physical. The league look like it's over with." So, I seen Coach Spurrier coming down the hallway pretty fast, just telling the guys to clear out. So it was a crazy experience. I was Apollo for about 5 minutes.
Any swag out of that? Any logoed clothing or a hat?
No, man. I hope those guys that played for the Apollos for those previous weeks got some stuff. I didn't get anything. I just the GM actually told me he was going to give me some gas to go back home with, and I didn't get that either. So, it's part of the game.
But a new opportunity here. You feel better about what you're experiencing so far with the XFL?
Yes, sir. It's been top of the line. We got this beautiful facility out here in Plant City. We're getting fed, we're being housed. Everything's been top notch. So, been very, very blessed with that. It takes out that, that feeling of, everything's not second tier. Everything's been first class. So it's been a blessing.
You mentioned the CFL. What did you like about playing in Canada?
Just the fact that I was in a foreign country and still able to play a game that I grew up playing. Of course, it's a lot different than out in the States. You had to adjust to the waggle, the field being a lot bigger than what it was in the States. But I was just thankful that I was able to put pads, helmets on, go out there, camaraderie with the guys and play a game. And I ended up getting the Grey Cup championship. So it was actually a great experience for me.
I was about to say, pretty good run there, and you had some outstanding plays. Talk us through your big interception and return for touchdown.
And I just credit that to my teammates and my coaches. That week, I was a rookie. I ended up starting for like the last 4 or 5 games of the season, and coach told me going into the season, going into the postseason, I had a great leader who was in front of me, Marcus Ball. He said, "Hey man, we're gonna trust you to go out there and play the game plan that you need to do while Moneyball was getting healthy." And they just always instilled, confidence in myself. So, that week I actually got a pick in practice, and it translated to the game.
How's it feel to have a championship at the CFL level?
Feels amazing, man. It's not a Super Bowl championship, but it's a Grey Cup championship, and it's a professional league. It's taken very seriously up there in Canada, and I was great. I was grateful that Coach Trestman had brought me on the team, and I was able to win a championship with him my rookie year. Something a lot of guys don't ever get to do in the CFL, and it was a blast, man. I'm a winner. I was able to win at the CFL level. Hopefully, I can do the same at the XFL level.
Get a championship ring?
Get a championship ring, yes, sir. It was beautiful.
What do you do with it?
It's actually presently framed up in my house right now. They gave us a nice little box that we have. It had like over 100 diamonds in it, so it was beautiful.
You mentioned Coach Trestman. What's that relationship like, and what do you think he can do for the XFL and the Vipers?
Coach Trestman is a great man. What he taught me in Toronto was, it's not about, always about X's and O's and who works the hardest, but it's about a genuine love for your teammates, that interpersonal relationship that you build with one another, that, when you're in the heat of the battle, in the fog of the war, you need somebody you know is going to have your back. And only way you can do that is by love. And what I mean by love is accountability, responsibility, and I can trust you. And that's what he builds from his teams.
From what you can tell in this locker room, what do you get as a sense of quality of player, and what do you think that will translate into quality of play?
We got great character guys. We got a lot of characters, but we got great character guys. And it's good to have characters on the football team. You got to lighten it up. It's football, 24/7 at a time, but we got to have some time in which we can, have fun, joke around, talk about serious things in life, and we do that all the time here. And it's like we're not even a first-year team. It's kind of like we all been around each other. We all been ingratiated into the culture. So that's been the best part about this.
Some former UCF Knights on this roster.
Yes,
any characters there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Jordan McCray is one of the most hilarious dudes I've ever been around in my life. I've been around him since about 2011. Love him to death. He's going to be in my wedding in May. He's one of my groomsmen, and also Renell Hall, who was my college roommate, one of my best friends, and he'll be in the wedding too. So these are two guys that I actually came up through as going from a teenager to an adult. We've always kept that contact, and a lot of the UCF Knights still keep contact because of what we were able to build there.
So fresh start in the XFL, upcoming wedding. 2020 is looking pretty good for you.
It's looking pretty good, man. I'm blessed. I'm highly favored. I'm just thankful for these opportunities, and I pray that, my work ethic and my hard work and favor over my life continue to be this way.
So what's the dream now? You think you carve out a niche here, or you think there's something maybe else?
I'm just worried about practice today. I'm trying to make it through practice, man.
Have you gotten used to these green and yellow uniforms? They resemble a certain other team that calls Tampa home.
Yeah, man. It definitely took a little adjustment to get used to. I still recognize that we're an XFL team, so that's the best way I can, decipher away from the University of South Florida or University of West Florida, whatever they want to be called. But I'm just thankful to have some colors on, be able to play the game. So, I get used to it.
Little rivalry with a couple of those Tampa guys.
Most definitely. We got Kano, we got Quinn Flowers. They both play for University of South Florida. But when I talked to them, I showed them a lot of respect because I saw how they play. I know Q is one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in South Florida football history. Kano was one of their good tight ends for a couple of years while he was there until he transferred over to Oregon. So we definitely have a rivalry. But at the end of the day, we're a team right now. One cause, one goal. So now they're my teammates now. So we're going to ingratiate them like that.
And the UCF Knights are going to be playing in the Gasparilla Bowl
Yes,
in
sir.
that stadium that you will call home
Yes, sir.
in February. What's that like to see the Knights with a local bowl game this year?
Man, I'm happy for the Knights. We faced a lot of adversity this year. It took a couple losses, but the one thing I can say, we got a freshman quarterback who just made, All-American team. We got a lot of these young guys who are going to be able to step up. A lot of people around the country, still give us the air quotations around the 2017 national championship. And I'm the same guy who's always in their face saying, no, we are the national champions. We claimed it. We have a right to do that. So, I'm going to always be a Knight. I'm always support the kids back home.
I like that. Now, Terrence has this well planned out. His wedding takes place after the XFL playoffs and championship game, so not going to have any conflicts there. So that's good. And it was good catching up with him. I think we've had him on Knightline.
We have.
Yeah. We've talked to him
I
before.
love him. He's one of my all-time favorites, actually.
Yeah, nice guy. Just ahead, we're going to catch up with another of Terrence's Vipers teammates. Offensive lineman Jordan McCray will be with us. Football's early signing day. That is coming up December 18th. Next, we get up to speed with Jason Beatty of Knights 24/7.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline and Knightline Postgame Live. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
Every child in Central Florida deserves a toy at Christmas. But unfortunately, not every local family can provide that Christmas cheer. Hearts Helping Others of Central Florida is once again teaming with local businesses for their annual toy drive, and we need you. For years now, Hearts Helping Others of Central Florida has supported local Central Florida families in need with many programs, providing food, clothing, resources, and services. They do this regardless of the income bracket of the family, because every family could be just one paycheck away from financial disaster. During the holidays, things can be even worse for these families in need. For the next 2 weeks, you can drop off new unwrapped toys for ages newborn through 17 years old at one of our many drop-off locations. These include 5-Day Cabinets in Castleberry, O'Reilly Auto Parts in Apopka, Stefano's Restaurant in Winter Springs, Shovelhead Lounge in Longwood, and First Institute in College Park. The toy drive supports local families that may need a little help at this time of the year, and you, our Central Florida residents and local businesses, have a chance to provide the toys Hearts Helping Others will give away in its holiday support program this month. You can also donate financially through their website at heartshelpingotherscfl.com. Become a donor for the holidays or a monthly partner. Find us on Facebook or PayPal at heartshelpingothers7@gmail.com. Hearts Helping Others. We can't help everyone, but everyone can help someone.
Let's talk UCF football and recruiting with Jason Beatty, who covers UCF for Knights 24/7. Jason joins us on the Knightline hotline. I'd be remiss if I did not say that Jason really got his launch as Jason the intern a few seasons back on Knightline. Welcome back, Jason.
It has been a minute. Thank you guys for having me back on. Yes, obviously you guys launched me into my great career at UCF. You got to start somewhere, right? But thank you guys for having me on again. And obviously, thank you for just supporting me and giving me that first chance to help you guys out way back when.
Well, you've done a great job. Since then, I think you're doing a great job with 24/7. And I'm happy for you, and I'm glad to have you back on.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm following the footsteps of Juan Toribio, the previous publisher, and just trying to do my best to report and report on UCF. So it's been a blast so far.
Before we get into all of the recruiting chatter, just a couple of days from early signing day, I want to point folks to your article, December 13th, headline, Potential Directions UCF Can Go When Replacing Jeff Lebby. I want you to talk a little bit about the list you put together.
Yeah, I wasn't too sure where UCF could go after losing Jeff Lebby to Ole Miss. Obviously, he joins Lane Kiffin, who UCF beat when he was the head coach at FAU the past 2 seasons. I was really curious about the options, right? Whether they want to just hire an offensive coordinator, whether they want to hire a quarterback's coach and just let Josh Heupel call the plays with just him, or where would they go? And, I was looking at the market and, also considering really who Josh Heupel's coach with, because you look at the current staff, and I mentioned in the article Glenn Ellerby, Darryl Wyatt, Willie Martinez. There's a good amount of guys on this current staff that have coached with Josh in the past, whether it be Oklahoma, or just across where he's coached in his career. And really, I want to go back in his past and look at some of the assistant coaches or some of the other coordinators he's worked with and, try to give some legitimate candidates that he's maybe not contacting. And then I also wanted to look around the country and look at some of those, not smaller schools, but lower programs like Appalachian State or Louisiana Tech, and look at those up-and-coming coordinators that UCF may want to hire. I gave some legitimate options, some more likely than others, but you don't know what direction Josh Heupel wants to go in, and I just kind of wanted to give a good list that had some legitimate candidates on it.
Okay, well, enlighten us here, if we haven't had a chance to read the article, some of the people that you are talking about.
Sure, yeah, I started out, I kind of went in order of, best candidates or most likely candidates. I started out with Glenn Ellerby, the current offensive line coach. I don't know if a lot of people knows, but he was actually promoted as well this past summer to assistant head coach for the offense. That's one of his official titles on the UCF coaching staff page. It's if Josh Heupel just wanted to promote internally and just promote Ellerby to the offensive coordinator position. Obviously, he has an understanding of the play calling. He has a good relationship with the offensive line and the running back group and this offense. So that's one option right there. And then, I don't know how likely the second option is, but he's near the top of the list is Kendall Briles, obviously the brother-in-law of Jeff Lebby, and that's the former offensive coordinator at Florida State. Florida State recently hired Kenny Dillingham, who came over from Auburn. Now Mike Norvell gets the cherry-pick staff. So they compared the other way around when Power 5 programs were cherry-picking his staffs at Memphis and, the Group of 5 programs. And then I mentioned a name that your everyday fan might not know, Mitch Metello. He's currently the assistant quarterback coach for UCF. He was a grad assistant officially, but he's worked with the quarterbacks. This is an option that I see as if Josh just wanted to only hire a quarterbacks coach and not an offensive coordinator, he could promote Mitch because he already has an understanding and a good relationship with the current quarterbacks, especially Dylan Gabriel. And then the next couple candidates that go back into Heupel's past. The first one I mentioned was Luke Wells, who's coached with Josh at Utah State in 2015. He was a co-offensive coordinator and tight ends coach and a recruiting coordinator, so he has some recruiting background. And that's one reason why I don't think a lot of fans, they look at losing Jeff Lebby and, obviously it's still a high-powered offense at UCF. Nothing really changes there. They're still going to go fast, but Coach Lebby had a really good impact on recruiting. You saw that this week, a couple decommitments, a little bit related to that, not too bad though. But I looked at Luke Wells as a possible candidate. He's currently at Texas Tech as an assistant coach, dealing with receivers and tight ends. I brought up Andy Hill, who was a coach, long time coach at Missouri. Obviously, Josh Heupel was the offensive coordinator for 2 seasons at Missouri. Hill was not retained by new Missouri head coach Elijah Drinkwitz. He was there for 23 years. So that's someone, that Heupel's worked with. He has a long background in football. That's a possibility. Then going back further into his career, I don't know how likely this option is. He doesn't have as much coaching experience. Joe John Finley, kind of an interesting name. Joe John spent some time as an offensive grad assistant in Oklahoma, and then followed him to Missouri as a tight ends coach for 2 years. He's currently at Texas A&M as a tight ends coach, so he has some tight ends experience, and he's worked with Heupel. The next candidate I mentioned, Jay Norvell. This one is not as likely. I just mentioned it because he has coaching ties to Josh Heupel. Norvell, who currently serves as the head coach at Nevada, so I don't know if he'd want to, go from that head coaching position to an offensive coordinator at UCF, but Nevada to UCF, that's a move, for coach. I would say he spent 7 seasons at Oklahoma, 3 as an assistant offensive coordinator and a receivers coach, alongside Josh Heupel. Just really good coaching ties there. And then the next candidate moving down the list, Todd Fitch. This is a candidate I mentioned before, looking at other lower tier programs, Sun Belt programs or those other Group of 5 programs. Todd Fitch is the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach at Louisiana Tech, which is the 27th ranked scoring offense. They average 34 points a game in the country. He's just a top coordinator, up-and-coming coordinator. If UCF wanted to go that direction, he's definitely an option. And then the last one, I don't think this is going to happen. It's doubtful. Obviously, I think a lot of fans, if you look on Twitter or message boards or wherever, a lot of fans pointed to Sean Beckton. Obviously, he left UCF, obviously was at UCF for a very long time and joined Scott Frost on the Nebraska staff. But I included him because the relationship was there. I know when Josh Heupel was hired, he said that he offered a position to Beckton on the staff. I don't know how likely that is compared to the other names, but I included it on the list just because it's an option. So realistically, with this list, that's the full list. And the articles, if you want to go into more detail and read about the coaches and their backgrounds and where they've served and what they've done on those offenses they've served. Some are more legitimate options than others, but they all have some sort of tie to UCF or Josh Heupel, and that's typically where you see these types of coordinator or assistant coaches positions going. If you look in Josh Heupel's coaching hires he's made.
All right. Well, it looks like you really did it sounds like you really did your research. Good stuff there. One of the things that you mentioned is Lebby really did do a great job at recruiting, and that's the thing that I'm worried about the most because, I know that he was not the one that calls the plays. So Having an offensive coordinator that doesn't really call the plays, I don't think there's really a lot of reason to have a guy named offensive coordinator. I think maybe Ellerby would work out really well there as well because he can recruit. Mitch Metello also would be a great guy to promote to the quarterback's coach because he's, right there. He's been there with these guys for the last 2 years, so that would be absolutely perfect. But talk, I guess, a little bit more about Lebby's recruiting. I mean, he's done a lot. I mean, we've already seen flips from him leaving.
Yeah, absolutely. On that point, I know Lebby's name last season came up in coaching searches, and that's part of why he was named that offensive coordinator position, so he can, possibly get some more money and a bit more bonuses tied to his name with the offensive coordinator, whether or not he called the plays, depends who you're talking to, I guess. In terms of recruiting, when there's smoke, there is fire, and that's kind of where we saw things going with Jeff Lebby. Is Sam Brown, the wide receiver, top wide receiver of UCF's class just a week ago, decommitted within the hour, had an offer from Ole Miss. Obviously, that's where Jeff Lebby ended up. I don't think there's too many recruits that are going to follow Jeff to Ole Miss, but obviously, Sam was pretty close with Jeff Lebby, and you look at some of the other recruits potentially. I think a lot of players like Jeff Lebby, who he is as a coach and who he is as an offensive mind. And, I spoke to some recruits even before his name was in the rumors of leaving. He was telling recruits that his likelihood of he wasn't sure how much likely he would be at UCF much longer, just because, there's interest from multiple schools, more than just Ole Miss. I think he has a big recruiting impact, but I think at the same time, kids should be looking at schools and not coaches. Obviously, you have to develop a relationship, but look at the senior class at UCF right now. They have 3 coaches, 3 different head coaches, and numerous coaches on the staffs. And realistically, a lot of these kids should be going to the schools, to play for UCF, whoever their coach is. But of course, I think that's where a lot of everyday fans might not realize. They look at losing Jeff Lebby as, okay, we'll just hire another coach. But he did have an impact on the recruiting class. And you look at Michael Wright, the quarterback. He was supposed to take an official visit to UCF this past weekend, and I'm pretty positive he wasn't there this weekend. How that had to do much with Jeff Lebby not being there anymore, we'll have to see what happens with his recruitment. But he definitely has an impact. No matter what program it is, losing your offensive coordinator or your quarterback's coach, 8 or 9 days before National Signing Day, that's always going to hurt at least a couple of recruits or a couple of commitments.
As you know, on your Twitter handle, @TheRealBeatty, Knight Nation is a passionate group. We put out the call for Ask Knightline questions. I want to give you a sampling of some of them. Feel free to comment. We want to try and get the temperature of recruiting. At Brian W. Peterson, should we be worried about the recent string of UCF football recruits decommitting this week? At Brando Nitro, should we all be concerned at all the recent transfers and recruit decommits? At Fear the Pegasus, why are we only seeing decommits and transfers out? Where are all of the new incoming bodies? And perhaps my favorite, at the Lonely Bee UCF, we got decommits, we got transfers, our pets' heads are falling off. Is it time to freak out? So, Jason,
yes,
you're on this all the time.
Hit the panic button.
Is it time to freak out? That's the question.
I don't. I really don't think so. A comment on the transfers. Obviously, everyone has their own decision to make, and you got to respect that decision. And players want to play, and there's only so many spots in the football field. I'm not pointing out at any single specific player who's recently entered the transfer portal, but majority of these players weren't getting playing time, and I understand that. You look at the 4 or 5 guys from UCF that are looking to go elsewhere. They want to get playing time. I wouldn't want to sit on the bench for 2-3 years and go, wait, am I actually going to play football for UCF?
And the thing to remember there, sorry to interrupt, the thing to remember,
no, you're good.
The biggest thing to remember for people is none of these players that are in the transfer portal from UCF are going to hurt us by leaving. I mean, pure and simple.
No.
They're just guys that, like you were saying, want to get playing time. They weren't going to get it here. They obviously, I hate to say not good enough to play here, but that's pretty much what it comes down to. They weren't getting playing time. Obviously, they can't break the into the roster, so good for them. Good luck. Once a night, always a night. Blah blah blah. See you later.
It's a business decision, and their business is their life, and they want the best outcome for themselves. And whether they're not good enough or whatever the case may be, I think a lot of fans, realistically, when a player enters the transfer portal, that doesn't mean they're transferring. They're just looking at different schools, and eventually they may decide to come back to UCF or transfer. But typically, especially with the last couple players who have entered the portal, they will most likely leave. You saw Malik Burrow; he entered the portal, defensive tackle from UCF. He had transferred from Ohio State. He's going to Rutgers. He announced that on Sunday afternoon. You look at a lot of these guys, and I think when someone enters the portal, a lot of fans see that and go, what's going on right now? And I think a lot of fans have to understand that that's what happens during this time of the year. A lot of players look themselves in the mirror and go, okay, what am I really on the brink of getting some playing time? And that's just, that comes with the sport, and that's what comes with college football nowadays. Regarding the decommitments, again, every class is going to have a couple decommitments. Realistically, UCF is, right where they need to be. Obviously, some of the decommitments recently, Sam Brown, it would have been great for him to be part of this recruiting class. Mark Pitts, an offensive lineman from Gainesville, recently decommitted, but today UCF added an offensive line commit from Germany. I don't know if you guys saw this or not.
And this guy is a freaking monster.
Yeah, I'm not one to correct your work, but I think you have a typo here. I see you've written 6'10", 285 pounds. You mean 6'1"? Is that what you mean?
I wish I meant 6'1". He is 6'10", nearly 300 pounds. He comes from Germany. You replaced Mark Pitts right there as an offensive line commitment. So I think a lot of fans need to realize that, again, this is what happens during this time of the year. We're now 3 days out when this is being recorded from early signing day period. Kids need to, again, look themselves in the mirror. Are they really going to play at UCF? Or do they want to go somewhere else that sets themselves up for a more successful future playing college football at other programs? And I think fans, again, they see the headlines, decommitments and transfers and what's going on. And you just got to relax, wait it out, see what comes on signing day. Because, right now we're at 17 verbal commitments, 12 of which come from the state of Florida. That's my favorite thing about this class. But more good news is, I promise you, is coming on the way as we approach early signing period.
Back to this Paul Rubelt guy, who is the 6'10",
Sure.
285-pound offensive lineman. I know a lot of our listeners probably don't go and watch high school tape from a lot of these guys, but I do. And I know that you've seen it. This guy is a freaking monster. At 6'10", 285 pounds, he's probably going to put on some weight because he's, for being 6'10", he's not the biggest guy in the world. He's much bigger in his tape than everybody else on the football field, though. But this guy does damage. I mean, he pushes guys down, and half the time they don't even get up. He just pushes them down. He's very, very strong. And on the tape, literally, he pushes guys down, and they just lay there like they got knocked out or something. This guy's, he's a little odd-sized for the offensive line, though. So, I mean, he's going to be way taller than everybody else. It's a little interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a great fit for this type of offense. Kind of look at how they use Anthony Roberson and somewhat Jake Hescock, and essentially, there isn't really a true tight end in this type of offense, but they were using them as offensive linemen essentially. And obviously, I don't know how good his hands are, but maybe with his height, they could use him in some weird plays where they're like, as Josh Heupel says, we went bone, or those types of offensive schemes where you could use that height to your advantage. But I think it's a good fit for this offensive line. It's going to be great to see how he develops and moves and develops as a football player.
Well, not official yet. The one that I feel stings a bit is if Mike Wright, quarterback Mike Wright, decided not to commit to UCF. He certainly seemed the biggest cheerleader, which is a good cautionary tale not to put your emotions in what 17 and 18-year-olds are communicating via Twitter and social media. That having been said, what's your gut tell you about the return of Darryl Mack Jr. In the quarterback room?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of look at earlier this offseason, Quadri Jones announced his decision to enter the transfer portal, and, I think he was taking a visit to, I don't know how many of you guys saw this, but on Instagram he was at McNeese State over the weekend looking at different schools, and, a lot of folks pointed towards, I guess Darryl Mack, will probably leave as well, but obviously with Michael Wright gone, and let's just say hypothetically Darryl were to leave, it's really just you go from a stacked quarterback room with all these guys potentially, and you really just have Dylan Gabriel and the possibility of Mackenzie Milton. Obviously, everyone wants to see Mackenzie play again, and that would be great and awesome. But it's we don't know. No one really knows right now about the possibility of him. So losing Michael Wright potentially when it becomes official. It would be nice to add a quarterback or two quarterbacks in this class. There's other names that UCF's going after, but Mike, like you said, he was a fan favorite. I felt like in this recruiting class, really out there on Twitter and social media and all along through this entire recruiting process, and just kind of fell apart there towards the end. Obviously, going back to your question about Darryl Mack, I think you have to look at that and go, he probably doesn't leave now, with Dylan Gabriel in there, and obviously Brandon Wimbush doesn't return, and who knows what happens with Mackenzie Milton. Obviously Darryl Mack could compete for the starting job if something were to happen for Dylan Gabriel and his development as a sophomore, or if there was some freak injury or something like that. You need those quarterbacks there. So I have to imagine coaches have spoke with Darryl, and he's looked at the possibilities of what could happen here, especially with this recruiting class. I don't think it's that likely that Darryl Mack leaves now with how this is all played out.
Assess this. What do you think are the most critical areas of need for UCF? Of course, a lot of attention is on this quarterback drama, but there are other position groups that are going to be graduating kids in 2020. As you have identified it, what do you think the key areas and what you want to see UCF land in the early signing period to satisfy those needs?
Yeah, I think, obviously the group's stacked at running back, and obviously the quarterback position and wide receiver position is pretty good right now. I think something that you'll see in this recruiting class, they focus a lot on the secondary. They're losing Neville Clark. A couple of the key players in the secondary are leaving. You look at some of their South Florida kids, Corey Thornton's cornerback, Quadric Ballard, a safety from Chaminade Madonna. And then you look at Mike Smith from Jacksonville. He's a safety as well. One of their more highly rated recruits is Brandon Coleman from Miami, Columbus. He's another cornerback. You look at the defensive back position and obviously the offensive line as well with 4 commitments. You can see what they're focusing in on. I think those are 2 positions that's always good to have more bodies back there and on the offensive line as well.
All right, one final from me. Be devil's advocate a bit here. 2017, we know, undefeated national championship. 2018, strong year, lose to LSU in the Fiesta, sans Mackenzie Milton. 9-3 this year. Here's the devil's advocate. Here's the question. Push back or agree? The recruiting class should be better than what it is currently ranked based on the level of success UCF has had over the last couple of seasons.
It's easy to agree with that. It really is. Don't get me wrong. It's easy to look at that class 4th right now in the American Athletic Conference. But realistically, it's hard for UCF to break. For me, no matter what the results are, and I understand what you're saying, I understand what you're trying for me to say, but normally for UCF successful class is if they can break top 50 in the country or top 45 in the country. Right now, they're at 61st. Previously, last year they finished 60th in the country. They're still going to get some verbal commitments here. They're still going to move up in the rankings a little bit as we approach early signing day. They should still finish. If I had to guess, I haven't looked at what Cincinnati's doing in the last couple of days, but UCF is definitely still in contention to finish number 1 or 2 in the American Athletic Conference. I really think they're right where they need to be right now. Obviously, some of these decommitments and future commitments possibly have hurt. It's easy to say, yeah, they should be way better. What the heck? And, they're competing with these top programs, but you look at the recruiting differences. But that's what UCF's always been. They're recruiting the top 3 stars or the Project 2 stars. And, you look at their last 4-star, Cordarian Richardson hasn't seen, he's not with the program anymore, right? So I think, it's easy to say, yes, they should be higher. They should be recruiting the 4s and 5 stars. And, no matter how you feel about recruiting, with the star ranking, right? But the UCF likes to recruit those diamonds in the roughs and some of those top near 3 stars, almost 4-star guys, and development them. I think for me, what's more important is not to focus on the recruiting rankings, and more focus on guys that fit the defense and fit the offensive schemes, because that's really where UCF's good at. You look at who Scott Frost recruited and who Josh Heupel recruited. That's how they got this UCF fast offense. And you look at the playmakers on defense the past 2 seasons. Those have been those Randy Shannon South Florida recruits. And I think it's better off recruiting guys who fit the system and develop into the system and grow in their system than going for just 2 guys that are 4 or 5 stars that maybe fit but are just raw talent, right? So I think that's what they need to focus on. So yes and no.
Way to be decisive there, Jason.
Yes, that's such a hot take by me. Yes or no. That's where I am on that.
Well, I like what you're saying there. I tend to agree with what you said there. My final question, has the transfer portal basically created free agency in college football more than it had before? The transfer portal now has become very visible where it wasn't visible before, but the same things were happening. Has it changed anything that it's become visible, I guess?
Yeah, I think in terms of it becoming visible, right, you look at the 4 or 5 guys that have entered the transfer portal for UCF in the past month or so, since the end of the regular season. Before the transfer portal, how likely is there are those names being reported on, besides on the message boards or the well-sourced or the connections, but how likely are some of those players who, I'm going to be honest, some of the guys who went to the transfer portal for UCF, I had to look up how they seen the field in their first 2 years. Some of these guys were scout team players, so that creates headlines, and they see 4 or 5, 6 CF players in the transfer portal, and fans freak out and start, calling into you guys and asking what's going on, right? In terms of it being a free agency, I don't think we're at that point yet, because it's still a decision that has to be made. Like I said before, a player entering their name in the transfer portal doesn't mean they're necessarily going to leave, but they're just exploring their options, and they're able to they're able to withdraw their name at any time. But once they do enter the portal, the school is under no obligation to keep a player on scholarship. So it's almost like a hybrid free agency. It's not a true free agency, but I think definitely your point in, does it make it more public? Absolutely. And I think that's why you see these headlines out here. And every single day, I know 24/7 Sports has a transfer portal tracker now, and you can. We have.
I look at it every single day. Every single day
so
now.
It's working,
I look at
right?
It. Yeah, it's awesome.
And it is awesome. And you get to see the crystal. Now we have a function where before you could make a crystal ball and predict where guys are going to commit. Now I can make it, if I wanted to, where they're going to transfer to, which is interesting to me. So I think it's more public, and that's why you see these articles being written about guys that maybe hadn't played as much, and maybe in years past, it wouldn't have been even reported unless the player announced it themselves, to be quite honest with you. But I don't think we're at the true free agency where, they're going into a room and they're meeting with different coaches and they're picking their best options. I think typically when players enter the transfer portal, they're doing that for an exact reason, and that's to play football.
Awesome.
They're not necessarily the superstars, and they're I have Ohio State, Alabama, and LSU looking at me. It's not like LeBron James making a decision, right?
Yeah,
it's
and
someone looking for playing time, and that's what it comes out to be.
You mentioned something else there as well, the word scholarship, and a lot of these guys that are in the transfer portal, especially for UCF, are not guys that were totally 100% on scholarship as well. Some of those guys were walk-ons and all that stuff, and that's what people need to remember, especially if you don't know these names. They didn't necessarily take a scholarship position or even had one. So, hey, Jason, remind everybody or just tell everybody where they can find your stuff.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at @TheRealBeede. My last name is Beede. Follow along, Knights 24/7. I'll be up early signing period, December 18th. That's this week. I'm back home in Key West for winter break for a little bit, so I actually have a special opportunity. We have an offensive lineman from Key West. His name is Patrick Barnett. I'll be attending his signing day ceremony. So follow along, Knights 24/7, part of the 24/7 Sports Network.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. Really good to talk to you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on again.
Jason the intern, all growed up.
I know. He sounded great. He did a really, really good job. Nice to have him on.
And Sunday really bookended with recruiting talk, as in the morning you had Brandon Helwig of UCFsports.com, the publisher.
We should have both of those guys on, and I didn't think that we could fit him in with Ben and all that, so I had Brandon this morning, Jason tonight, and I think it worked out good. We had there's a lot of content to go back and you can hear Knightline the morning after again on Monday nights is when I put that out. So you'll be able to hear that if you didn't this morning. I know it's hard for a lot of people at 9 o'clock in the morning, but I appreciate the people that listen to that. Though I've been kind of starting to have guests on there a little bit more, and you can always still call in when the phones work and all that stuff.
So Nightline's got you covered on recruiting. So
yeah, we got all kinds.
You just heard Jason. You go back and listen if you didn't hear it on Sunday morning to Brandon, and you're going to know up to the moment. Now these are 17 and 18-year-old kids. And some of them are going to change their minds.
And a little bit of different information between the two of them as well. So they both do an excellent job covering this stuff. They are the two people that really, really cover recruiting very, very. They blanket it. They blanket the recruiting coverage.
Taking a look at your Nightline planner. Women's basketball is back. They've had several days off. 6 p.m. at home on the 17th versus Quinnipiac. Then the Knights host the UCF Holiday Tournament Friday and Saturday with games against St. Mary's and Wright State.
All right, coming up next, you're going to hear from our good friend Jeff Allen, who does the AAC report on the Knightline Sports Network. If you haven't had a chance, check that show out. He has all kinds of good information on that show as well. During the week here on the Knightline Sports Network.
Time now to take a look around the American. Malcolm Perry rushed for 304 yards and 2 touchdowns to lead Navy to a 31-7 rout over Army, breaking a 3-game losing streak to the Cadets. The 304 rushing yards are the most by any player in the 120-game history of the Army-Navy game and pushed his season total to 1,804 yards, a new single-season rushing record at Navy, and gives the midshipmen a 10-win season. A couple of nice out-of-conference victories in men's hoops. Number 13, Memphis rolled into Knoxville, and down number 19, Tennessee 51-47, snapping the Vols' 31-game home-winning streak. The Tigers rallied from 12 down to lift their season record to 8-1. Wichita State moves to 9-1 as they downed Oklahoma 80-75. Eric Stevenson led the Shockers with 16. And in volleyball, Cincinnati came within 1 frame of reaching the tournament's final 8 teams on Friday night. Number 11 Penn State rallied to stop the Bearcats in 5 sets. Cincinnati ends the season 27-7 as unanimous AAC Player of the Year Jordan Thompson closed out her career with a match-high 30 digs. I'm Jeff Allen. We will cover all this and more, including another in our series of close-ups in men's basketball on this week's AAC Report only on the Knightline Sports Network.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. Did he say 304
he
yards
did,
for Malcolm Perry?
What a performance by him. Unbelievable.
Wow, what a turnaround. Navy had struggled last season and a 10-win season, and they win that very big game with Army, and they're going on to the Liberty Bowl. So it's really been a tremendous year for the Naval Academy.
That game is so huge in college sports and in the service academies especially. It's amazing the energy that stadium has when they play that game. It's like you're watching the freaking Super Bowl or something. I mean, it's a big deal. It's awesome that they do that every year, and I'm glad to have Navy a part of the American, at least for football. I think it's awesome. So, all right. The last time we spoke with Jordan McCray, it was a few months ago, the former O-lineman Torian Wilson's camp. McCray played with the AAF's Orlando Apollos and now hopes to keep his professional career going with the XFL's Tampa Bay Vipers. Here's when Trace talked to him earlier this week.
Last we saw you in uniform with the Orlando Apollos, now a Tampa Bay Viper. How's this feel?
It feels good, man. Happy to be in Florida, be close to home, close to my second home, Orlando, and be around a really good group of guys and good group of coaches. So,
what can you tell in difference between the AAF, the ill-fated AAF, and the XFL? How can you see things change?
Well, it's nice here that we have our own facility. Don't have to go around a whole bunch of places. We're going to be right here in Plant City or in Tampa, so not too far of a drive at either place. Similar talent, a lot of really good group of guys in the room. Got some great coaches here too, so hopefully this is here to stay.
You're not planning to go to Georgia for a couple of weeks or anything like that?
I would hope not. Hopefully we could just stay right here and just keep coming to this facility here. They've been great to us here at this facility here and at the hotel as well. So it's been a really good gig so far.
It's early. It's camp. You haven't seen other teams yet. You'll do that when you go to Texas. Mm-hmm. What's your sense of the quality of play and maybe the difference between the Vipers and the Apollos?
I think it's still going to I think regardless of what happened with the AAF, it was a good quality of play, and I feel like this is going to be just as good or better. A lot of these guys I played with in different levels, a lot of them at UCF as well, but in the league is team played against them or been on the team with them. So I know it's a lot of good players in here, so I think we're going to put out a good show.
What's the dream for you now?
The dream for me still is to get back into the NFL and make a name for myself in that league as well. I had a chance with Chicago this past camp. Did well, but it just didn't work out. So I'm still trying to put out good film and get back to that level and show that I can play at a high level at the biggest stage.
And that may be something that people don't understand when you see a product like the XFL. That difference in talent between the NFL and the XFL, it's just
it's not as big as people would think it is, just because it would be I guess a lower level of play, but a lot of these guys have played in NFL games, have made their mark in NFL games, and for one reason or another aren't in the league anymore, and just trying to get back. So this is going to be a lot of motivated guys playing, so it's going to be a really good turnout.
What should we expect from the XFL in terms of rule changes or quality of play? What do you see being different?
I think it'll be a pretty similar game to what you'll see in the NFL as well. There are a couple of rule changes, like not being able to leave until the ball's kicked for special teams and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's going to be the same game. A lot of good, talented players on the field, so it'll be exciting to watch.
And you got a couple of UCF guys on the roster. What's that like?
Man, it's great, man. TP, Speedy, Matt Wright, a lot of those guys. TP and Speedy are one of my best friends, man. So we talk all the time. So just to be on the team with them, seeing them every day, practicing with them again, especially TP, so going pretty much head-to-head with him. It's been real fun, man. Can't wait to do it some more and more.
You're, of course, known for wearing black and gold, and now the Vipers' colors are green and yellow, kind of like that rival that plays in Tampa.
I wasn't entirely happy about it, but, you got to do is I'm just happy they gave me an opportunity, so I'm going to wear it with pride and make sure I put out the best performance I can.
UCF playing in the Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa. What do you think of that? It'll be in your new backyard.
Yes, that was actually pretty cool. I've seen that, so I'll definitely be at the game, and hopefully we'll get the victory there, too.
All right, more interviews from Vipers camp on the next all-new Knightline, including one-on-ones with wide receiver Rennell Hall and kicker Matthew Wright.
I really
Good to have those guys.
Catching up with these guys. I love that they're just over at Tampa Bay and they're not at one of the other far-flung teams in the league. So
McCray is an excellent guy. I mean, he has talked to us anytime that we've wanted him to. Been very, very cool with us as far as being available and all that stuff, and we really, really appreciate that. It's good to talk to these guys.
Definitely is. All right, UCF men's basketball makes it 5 wins in a row. We are talking about it with former UCF men's basketball player Ben Stout, and who will be this week's winner in our Island H2O Live ticket giveaway, just ahead only on Knightline number 215.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley reminding you to tune in every Sunday morning, 9 to 10 a.m. on ESPN 580 Orlando for Knightline the morning after. We'll be taking your calls and your texts reacting to the previous week's UCF sports action. Once again, that's Knightline the morning after, every Sunday morning, 9 to 10 a.m. on ESPN 580 Orlando or TuneIn Radio. Go Knights and charge on.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up a menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Knightline's own 7-footer, Ben Big Social Stout, and Inside the Paint.
UCF with the 76-65 victory Sunday over Sacred Heart to improve to 8-2 on the season. Let's talk about it with former UCF men's basketball player Ben Stout. Ben, I want to take you to two things, and welcome to Knightline, by the way, before I move too forward on this. Good to talk with you.
Good to talk with you guys, yeah.
So I'm going to read you the scores of the last 5 UCF wins. 78-65 over Pepperdine, 77-56 over Charleston, 78-65 over NJIT, 79-66 over Green Bay, 76-65 over Sacred Heart. See some consistency there. On your Twitter at BigSocial32 after the game, you said, we have some things to clean up, but glad we took care of business. Tell us, what do we need to clean up?
Yeah, I think some of the things that we could are certainly opportunities to clean up, I think are still guarding the three-point line, and losing some off-ball men on defense are two areas that we need to continue to stay disciplined and clean up a little bit. We had a really good guard that we went against today. His last name's Parker. Cameron Parker is his name. He leads the country in assists per game. And we saw early on, especially in the first half, when they were hanging around and staying with us up until about the 3 or 4 minute mark in the first half, he was really turning it on and finding little avenues in our defense where he could put a bounce pass or put a pass past us that was either a backdoor cut for an easy layup, or he would make our defense collapse a little bit and kick it out to an open shooter. We got lucky today. It could be a little bit of a fool's gold for Johnny Dawkins looking into the game, because they did shoot a horrible percentage from the 3-point line. So it looks like we defended the 3-point line really well, but there were a lot of open shots that they missed. And so we want to make sure that, unless that was the game plan to allow open shots, which has happened before, where it was actually the game plan in Johnny Dawkins' tenure, where he saw something and saw that they weren't very good shooters, so he was allowing the open shot. That has happened in the past. I'm not quite sure if it was the game plan today, but we just need to make sure that we don't allow wide open jump shots, because if they start to fall, especially these teams that we play in conference, they could really hurt us and they can go on a run. But we definitely have seen a lot of great things in this 5-game winning streak, some things to build on, and we've got a lot of great athletes and depth on the team. So I think the good things certainly outweigh the bad, but I think there's some things that they can see on tape.
10 games into the season, UCF is 8-2. Colin Smith with a charge in all 10 of the games this season. I know this is a stat you love. Talk about why that impresses you so much.
It really does. And I wish that the NCAA kept this as a general statistic. They really don't. It's something that really just individual teams take. So I'm sure the coaching staff knows exactly how many charges he's taken in each of the games. It's not something that we can compare the rest of the country against him, but I think that if they would keep that stat, he would be amongst the top 10 in the country on charges taken. And just from a big man, being aware where his position is on the floor, because you have to get outside of that little circle in the paint, understanding where to set his feet and how quickly he can move his feet into position when a point guard or somebody is charging at him. He's just really savvy, and it takes a lot of intelligence to be able to take as many charges as he takes in a game or in a season, but also it takes a lot of guts as well. I mean, you got to sacrifice your body, and it's something that I want to continue to call out, and I know that it's become kind of a running joke on Twitter, but I'm just going to keep it going because he deserves to be recognized for not only the intelligence it takes and the momentum-changing thing that he can have in taking a charge, but he deserves to be recognized in the sacrifice that he's making for his team and for the win and for the betterment of the team. So he's the best all-around player that we have, and he is certainly off to a great start in the season. And I think that while he wasn't on the preseason watch list for the all-conference teams and all that, I certainly think if he keeps this up and keeps progressing, he is putting forth a great game to be on an all-conference team by the end of the season, and he's going to help our team win a lot of games.
Box score from Sunday against Sacred Heart reads 19 minutes, 5 points. The question is, where's Brandon Mahan been these last few weeks?
Yeah, he's been a little bit spotty. He has come up with a big rebound here and there in certain moments. He had a couple of decent assists today. He's not necessarily turning the ball over, but he has gone quiet for long stretches of the game. I think he has found a spot in the rotation, and he seemed to accept his role pretty well in the beginning of the season for about a 3 or 4 game stretch. But recently, I don't know if it's just the opponent or the matchups, but Brandon Mahan has been a little bit quiet and been deferring a little bit to his teammates. And I think, potentially if he can get a couple shots to fall, especially from three-point land, because he does take a few of those a game, I think that once he sees that ball go in the bucket, he can get more confidence. He as most of our guards are, most of our swingmen are as well. We've got a really athletic team, and he's no different from that. And so I think by him continuing to show some of his athleticism and putting forth great effort on the court, especially on the defensive end, he'll still be able to get minutes and be able to contribute to wins in the future of this team. I think that he's just in a little bit of I wouldn't call it a slump, just that he just kind of hasn't really quite contributed as much as he wants to in the last few games.
The Knights host Bethune-Cookman Wednesday the 18th at 7, then it's on to Oklahoma Saturday the 21st. That's a 2 o'clock start. But 10 games in, that is 1/3 of the season. Grade the Knights. What do we got here? Better than what we anticipated. B-? Yeah. B-, a B? What do you think after 10 games, 1/3 of the season?
Yeah, I would say a real solid B. I think a real solid B would be a great grade for the Knights. They are continuing to progress every single game. There are stretches where we want to see a little bit more improvement, but there's also brilliant stretches as well where they're swarming around on defense, getting a great steal and turning that defensive pressure into points right away on the other end. They're displaying their athleticism and working together as a team. I think that one of the things that we worried about and we continue to talk about is how quickly can this team gel? How are they doing on the chemistry front? And I would say that they're further ahead than expectations, certainly than I expected on the chemistry front. They seem to be working well together. And for those long stretches in the game where they are moving the ball well on offense, especially, and playing inside out through Colin Smith and just playing that great lockdown defense that Johnny Dawkins prides himself and his teams on, I would say a solid B. They've got some room for improvement, which is which is really encouraging. I think they certainly haven't peaked yet, and they're moving in the right direction going into conference play. I mean, we've got one more game here coming up in this four game stretch that we've spoken about, where we're playing some teams that are a little bit lesser than us from a talent perspective, but we've got a great non-conference ender at Oklahoma. That's going to be a tough team in the Big 12 conference that is going to give us everything we've got, and we've got to be on our A game to beat them. But that's a great setup game. That's a great primer for that really tough conference slate that we've got in the American Conference. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm really excited about where they are, and I'm excited to see the flashes of how good they can be, and I'm glad that they've already exceeded some expectations and seem to be progressing well.
All right, fill in the blank time. If and or when a team shuts down Colin Smith or contains him, what will happen to the Knights? Fill in the blank there. What do you think will happen when a team really shuts Colin down?
I think that if that happens in a game, in order for us to win, we're going to have to see a guy like Dazon Ingram really step up in a way that he doesn't necessarily have to score all the points if Colin Smith is being, double teamed and taken out of the game, or if he's in foul trouble or whatever. But he doesn't necessarily have to be the leading scorer, but he needs to be very aggressive, and he needs to be able to get to the bucket as good as he is at doing that, and being able to either create points through contact like he's very good at, or driving and kicking out to our shooters. I think that guys like Dre Fuller and Darren Green Jr., they've proven as young players that they're ready for the big time and they're ready to step up at any given moment. But I think a guy like Dazon Ingram has to be kind of that engine that runs our team and really facilitates and kind of runs the ship well. So I would say that if that happens, Dazon Ingram is going to be the one that needs to step up and make sure that we are running on all cylinders as a team.
All right. Well, it would seem the 1/3 mark is a good time to do who's been the biggest surprise, who's been the biggest disappointment. But let's do this. Let's give you a little homework. Let's talk about this after the non-con slate, after 12 games. Let's talk about this a week out on Knightline number 216. And maybe if you're looking for a little homework, maybe you can give us what your thoughts are on opening the AAC with Temple and then really quickly turning on the road and going at Houston. Those are the first two conference games of the season. So that'll be something we can talk about on the next show. How's that?
Yeah, that sounds great. That's a fantastic homework assignment for me, and one that I would actually be enjoy doing from a homework perspective, which would be rare for me on the homework perspective. Actually enjoy doing it, but certainly I'm looking forward to speaking with you guys about those points, and we'll see how they can close out this non-con slate.
He is at Big Social 32. Ben Stout joins us always every week on the Knightline Hotline. Ben, thanks so much.
Thanks a lot for having me, guys. Have a good one.
All right, so 6'10" Paul Rubelt would still be looking up a couple inches to our very own Ben Stout. Our very own 7-footer. Is that what it is?
True.
Is it?
Yeah, it says our very own Knightline's own 7-footer. Yeah, so he is. He's 7 foot. He would definitely be still looking up at 6'10". All right, Knights in the pros. Lots of stuff to talk about here. First of all, the Miami Dolphins inked former Knight Rashard Kazi to its practice squad this week, which is cool. Good for him. Jordan Akins this week, 2 for 7 yards. Matt Prater, 2 extra points, 1 field goal that was 44 yards long. Mike Hughes had a heck of a day, 4 tackles and an interception. Good to see him doing that. The biggest
that was a
thing,
pick six, too, right? Mike Hughes.
I don't know. Was it a pick
was
six?
A pick six?
Oh, okay. Well, it wasn't just an interception then. It was a pick 6, I guess. They didn't say that on my little stat sheet there. Perryman had a heck of a game, probably his breakout game, to be honest with you. This is the biggest game that I think he's had the entire time he's in the NFL with the Tampa Bay Bucks. So a lot of you may have seen that. 5 receptions for 113 yards and 3 TDs. what a good deal for him. I'm so glad for him to finally be able to put a full game together like that. It's been a long road for him in the NFL the last couple of years, so that's freaking awesome.
Hail Perryman.
Yeah, Hail Perryman, exactly. Shaquille Griffin this week injured with a hamstring, so who knows how long he will be out. Unfortunately, that comes with football, so we're going to see our guys banged up every once in a while. And we didn't get to talk much about our Saints guys, UCF North, because they are off. They play on Monday night, so tomorrow night they will play, and we'll see what our guys do there. So that is Knights in the Pros.
Island H2O Live, a new wave of water park.
Experience the next generation of fun at Island H2O Live. You choose the music, you choose the lighting, and you choose where to share your memorable moments at Florida's newest and most immersive water park.
Island H2O Live.
Now open in Kissimmee, located off US 192 and State Road 429 on Inspiration Boulevard.
Island H2O Live.
All right, last week's winner was Cindy at C. Keefe UCF, who, by the way, I looked at her Twitter, and she mentioned on December 13th, my baby girl at X Brookie J is graduating from UCF this morning. We're so proud of you. How about that?
Very
Congratulations.
Cool. Very cool.
And
lots
this
of that going on.
Week's winner, we were asking for 5-star reviews, and this week's winner, the headline reads, The Yin and Yang of UCF Night Sports Talk. This is from Running 25315, who writes, these guys give a great mix of factual information and opinions about UCF sports. It almost feels like they are family after listening to them. I love the giveaways and the interactions with the UCF and Knightline fans. Charge on, boys.
Well, now you're the recipient of a giveaway.
That's a great way to be selected.
It
Mention
is.
giveaways.
It is. It's perfect. Perfect. Absolutely. All right. So what you need to do, since we don't have your email or a handle on Twitter or any of that, is contact me or us at Knightline on Twitter, UCF_Knightline on Twitter there. You can do that. You can send us a message there. You can send us a message on Facebook, or you can email me, Andrew at KnightlineSports.com, your contact information so I can get the Island H2O people and you together so we can make that happen. Very, very cool. Thank you again to Island H2O Live for giving us the opportunity to give tickets away, and I love doing that. I love to give stuff away. Nothing better.
So this yin and yang, by the way,
I like that,
is a complex relational concept in Chinese culture that's developed over thousands of years. That it means a set of two opposing and complementing principles or cosmic energies that can be observed in nature.
Well, I mean, I think that's probably about it. I'm the more centered guy.
Yeah, and I fly off the handle all the time.
I keep all of my,
emotions
in check.
Yeah.
And you are a little different.
Yeah.
So it's good. Yin and yang are good. It makes good radio, or whatever you want to call this. It is essential for the chemistry of a audio program.
The universe is governed by a cosmic duality, sets of two opposing and complementing principles or cosmic energies that can be observed.
The cosmic energy in this room, Trace, is tremendous.
What's the temperature here?
It's not bad. It's only 79.
Oh, that's cool.
It's not bad. It is cool.
All right, here's your premise. If Knightline sponsored a bowl game, think about that as we go to break. That is one of our Ask Knightline questions when Knightline number 215 returns.
You've heard us talk about the great food at our good friend Kyle Israel's restaurant, The Little Greek Fresh Grill. The Little Greek now has franchises available. Please call 407-697-2272. That's 407-697-2272 to see what The Little Greek can do for you. Also, check out The Little Greek's newest location at 6536 Old Brick Road in Windermere, Florida. The Little Greek Fresh Grill. Fresh, flavorful, fabulous.
Oviedo Brewing Company is the hottest microbrewery in Central Florida. Located 7 miles from UCF at the Oviedo Mall, this 8,800 square foot brewery just opened its doors 6 months ago and has already crafted 13 unique beer flavors and counting in their tap room. The tap room contains different styles of beverages, including ciders, wines, and craft sodas. Not only do they have amazing beers, they also have a full kitchen with gourmet pizzas, wings, and tacos. Oviedo Brewing has activities for each day of the week, such as Taco Tuesdays, Trivia Wednesdays, Pizza and Pint on Thursdays, plus live music on Friday and Saturday evening. But the best is Sunday brunch with unlimited beer mimosas. Need a spot for game day? Oviedo Brewing is just the place with their large TVs to catch all the live games. You'll also find Oviedo Brewing at UCF tailgating sampling beers. And OBC support for the Knights doesn't stop there. If you need a spot for UCF away games, come to Oviedo Brewing Company, where the Knightline sports crew will be broadcasting live after the game. You can get all the details on their Instagram or Facebook page. Follow them at Oviedo Brewing CO. Download the Untapped app, and you can find out what beers are on tap. The food menu is also available on their website, oviedobrewingco.com.
Hey Night Nation, it's Adam from the Sons of UCF. Be sure to check out our show every Wednesday only on the Knightline Sports Network. Now, back to two guys who probably won't be Cow of the Week nominees, Andrew and Trace.
Ask a Knightline is brought to you by Chad Barr Law. Chad is a UCF alumnus and diehard Knights fan. Chad Barr Law handles auto accident, slip and fall, and personal injury cases. Call Chad today at 407-599-9036 for a free consultation. That's 407-599-9036. Armor up and call Chad Barr Law today.
Time again for Ask Knightline, answering the questions that you send to us on our Facebook page or via Twitter at hashtag Ask Knightline. At Knightline's biggest fan wants to know, when will Adam and Mike do a new promo? Because that one's gotten a little tired. What?
Are you serious?
No.
Did somebody? No. They need to do a new one. We need to do a new one. I asked them, but they never. Those guys are busy. There's some stuff going on. Adam,
I know. I just want to razz him.
Adam is making a big move. He got a new job, so this is going to be exciting. Though I can't wait to
moving him into the Eastern time zone.
Well, I wasn't gonna. I don't know if he's announced that.
He'll be over at the Hilton in Tampa. Oh, wait, no, that was other things that I was supposed to talk about
Not
earlier.
sure if he's announced that, but anyway, yeah, he's gonna be a lot closer.
Change.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, but that's one question. When are you going to get that new promo? And our answer for at Knightline's biggest fan, we don't know. It's on Adam's to-do list. At Hooray for Eric, saying it's been rumored FSU, Miami, Pittsburgh all backed out of bowls with UCF, and that Danny White finally just gave in and said, fine, Gasparilla it is. Any thoughts on that? I think that may be a little overstating it. Just remember some things here, okay? UCF played Pittsburgh, so was there going to be a rematch bowl game?
That would have been great to have a rematch.
UCF plays North Carolina next year. Was that going to be the game? And, UCF really did finish behind, believe it or not, Memphis and Navy and Cincinnati. And, so UCF is looking up at some teams in the league. And I always take from UCF that when they are releasing news releases and putting it on Twitter, we've hit this ticket threshold. Silence. Crickets.
Yeah.
If they wanted you to believe that all their ticket allotment was sold out, they'd be telling you.
Yeah, that's true.
Meaning, I don't know how many of you were really going to the Military Bowl December 27th in Annapolis, Maryland.
Yeah.
If you can't make your way to Tampa on Monday the 23rd. So, I don't know.
Actually, we need to probably revise our thing. Last week we had a question about buying their tickets from UCF. I want to revise what I said. I don't know if you do.
Which was?
Well, I said that I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but I started thinking about that. And then Brandon posted this big thing on the Dungeon and NightlineSports.com, kind of reminding us why it's important to buy through the school, even though they don't give us the greatest seats sometimes.
Which I don't think is the case in this
bowl. It can be a little bit difficult sometimes.
I think these seats are good.
These seats
for
are
this
great.
bowl. Yeah.
We have great seats. But yes, it can be frustrating to do that through the school and all that stuff, and having to use points to get great seats and all that stuff. But they are on the hook for those allotted seats. They do have to pay for them if they don't use them. So it is kind of important to do that through the school, especially when we don't know how many people are actually going to go. So I take back what I said, how it was not important. I do believe that it's important. I kind of was, I think I was confusing it with a regular game on the road. I wouldn't buy my tickets through UCF because the sections that they put us in really suck. And that's not UCF's fault. That's the school where we're going to play on a regular road game. A bowl, it's different, though. So I just want to clarify that it is important for you to buy your tickets for a bowl game, especially from UCF. So thank you for letting me air that.
Noted. We need opening music for clarifications. You got any sounder for that? Edward on Facebook. As early signing day approaches, what position do each of you believe needs to be addressed the most heading into the 2020 offseason? I'll let you go first. You've spoken with both Brandon and Jason now and came into it with some thoughts as well.
Well, I think it's important that we do get some kind of a backup quarterback or a developmental quarterback. We need a quarterback. I don't care at this point really who it is. We just need a warm body there. I think we're set, especially if Mac comes back and all that stuff. So I think we're good as far as that goes. If we can get at least one quarterback, because we lost our grad transfer, and then we lost our graduate guy that had been there forever on the sidelines as well. So we do need to add a little bit of depth there. The thing that I'm the most interested in seeing probably, and I think one thing that we definitely need to do is, for me, it's the defensive backfield, the secondary. I'd like to see a safety or two and a corner or two. Those are the two things that concern me the most. One corner lost to going to the NFL for graduation. Another one lost to injury last year. We're not sure how Brandon Moore is going to be, coming out of this injury. These things take time sometimes. Not sure if he's going to be ready to go at the beginning of the season. So we need to get bodies in there as well, either grad transfers that open up that portal or recruiting.
On paper for the roster, I agree with you. I will go back to this, though. These games at any level of football are won and lost in the trenches, and we saw what happened when UCF struggled along the line in those 3 losses in 2019. So I will put mine on O-line, D-line, but I think when you look at what's graduating and leaving in 2020, you need to restock the cupboard there in the secondary. So... yeah. At Breeze running D1, who lists his question as the Manny exemption.
The Manny exemption.
Which I go back to our prize winner who mentioned the whole yin and yang thing, but he says that he loves the way we interact with UCF and Knightline fans. So cool. I would say Manny and what's her name in Georgia? Whatever that.
Betty?
Betty.
Yeah.
Whatever her name is. He asks, how much of an impact does Coach Lebby's departure have on future recruiting? Ooh, well, it's an interesting question. We don't know the impact.
I think it has a pretty big impact, actually. They're just going to have to step up their game. The next big recruiter guy is going to have to, make make it known that he's the guy and go out there and hit the pavement and find these guys. I mean, I think that's the biggest loss of this with Lebby leaving is the recruiting aspect of it, personally.
Remember, again, glass half full, got 2 full seasons with Coach Lebby. The rumors of his departure were swirling a year ago at this time.
They were.
As well. So got an extra year. Of course, he got a pay bump and a title change in that as well.
Yeah.
But we got another year. The second question in the Manny exemption, can we add a halftime report with Trace on the sideline similar to his walk and talk clips after the games are done? That would be,
I love that idea.
If I am back in 2020.
If you're back, what?
I might enter the transfer portal. There are other shows. There are other shows.
There's no other shows.
They come a-courting. I'm just saying.
Please.
What? It's true.
Please.
My phone's always ringing.
Okay.
You don't think that's true? I could go anywhere right now. I could.
I can't help
Now, I will say at halftime of games, I am busy. I'm trying to make some sense of stats and put them out on Twitter. I'll have to think through this. I mean, I'm not wandering around the building.
You could do it from the press box.
I could.
Just turn around and have the glass, the view show the people the view from up there. It's a great
I usually
view.
take a picture. Well,
Great
I take a
view
picture
from
at the
up
end
there.
of the game from upstairs. Yeah, maybe. I will say, not to brag that I do everything in one take, but most of the time when I mess up, it's because I've held the camera wrong and I don't have the right thing behind me.
Well,
or the sun is shining at a funny angle. So when I do multiple
Where
takes,
is that person that I'm paying to follow you around with the sunshade, the umbrella? What happened to that person? Are they dropping the ball?
who's this? Well, we got a budget for this and can't send me to Canada?
They haven't been following you
No.
like I told them to? Oh, my gosh.
I'm unawares. We will take this under consideration.
I'm firing that person tomorrow.
If I am back or wherever I may be.
You're fired.
At Mr. D. Benoit, who is your best guess on new OC? And does the hire change much of how the team and the offense is run? My guess is it doesn't change regardless of the hire, but curious on your guys' thoughts. I thought Jason has a pretty good list.
Yeah, I
and,
don't think we're going to hire one. I don't think,
What do you think
that anyone will have that official title.
So what do you think the position is going to
season.
be?
I think that he's going to. I hope that he will promote Mitch to quarterbacks coach, and because he's technically a grad assistant, I think, or whatever. So I hope that happens, and I think that would be good. I don't think he could save money in his budget if he didn't hire an offensive coordinator. He doesn't really need one. He needs somebody to sit up there, obviously, and look at things. But I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't hire one.
Put me in the camp of someone interested in at least considering someone calling plays as an offensive coordinator. But that's just me.
No, and that would be great,
Just
but I
me.
just don't think that's going to happen. So
At Scalern, how fun could the hiring of Kerwin Bell as our offensive coordinator be? Combine the fun and gun with a Heupel Bryles philosophy would trigger the cows and have the skilled players to dominate. Of course, he had a great deal of success. Jacksonville, which is dropping football, and I think he was at Valdosta State, and he was a quarterback of the Orlando Thunder back in the day when I worked for the Orlando Thunder. And so, I don't know. I don't see them hiring Kerwin Bell, but it would certainly be entertaining. This gentleman, gets pretty fired up on Twitter at @Andrzejak_G. In all seriousness, is UCF football in a rebuilding phase? Now, in fairness, I did ask this question a show or two ago. Do you consider this, maybe it's a good Twitter poll question, do you consider this now 9-3 a rebuilding?
every year in college football is a rebuilding. Every single year.
Should you be reloading or rebuilding?
Well, it's reloading, rebuilding, however you want.
Those are different
however
things, though.
you want to spin that, however you want to spin it. All it is spin. It's two different words that basically mean the same thing. So every year there's something. I don't think it's rebuilding this year. I think maybe if you're going to say something was rebuilding, maybe it was last year with the freshman quarterback. Maybe that's the only rebuilding that we need to go through. But every year there are changes. We've been lucky to keep the same staff that we had, except, now this year we've got Levy moving on. But we were lucky the last couple of years as far as that goes. And thank goodness we didn't lose the entire staff again. What I can't say that word. Anyway, yeah, so, it is and it's not. However you want to spin it, however it makes you feel better.
W. Prelbrock 4 at W. Prelbrock 4. West Central Florida's new coach, Jeff Scott, has 2 first names. Can't trust anyone with 2 first names. Will they end up on probation?
I hope so.
I think they may have gotten a good hire there. Young
Yeah,
guy,
oh, yeah.
seems to be social media savvy, and, comes from Clemson.
He was a holder, though. He was a holder.
Well, you got a disdain for holders?
No, but this guy. So if you look at his college, if you look at Josh Heupel, he was a national championship quarterback. Our coach before was a national champion quarterback, and this guy, all he can say is a holder. That's it. Mm-hmm. That's all he can say.
I think they got a good hire.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They did. Anybody coming from a program like that probably knows what's going on. We'll see. I think they should have hired Taggart personally again. But
how about Willie, FAU?
Yeah. The Willie train? No.
He's replacing the lane train with that
school
out of control bus that he's got.
Yeah, wow. What a fall. What a fall from grace. Like, seriously, FSU to FAU.
Yeah, it's a lot.
He stayed in the state. He's employed.
Well, I would have just taken that money that they were giving him.
Well, they got some money for. I'm sure that they got some money for Lane Kiffin leaving. Yeah, I'm sure there was a buyout there.
But he should have just taken some money, gotten him an upgraded school bus or a RV, and just traveled around.
And I'm sure he's getting paid by Florida State for a number of
for the
years.
foreseeable future.
So FAU probably doesn't have to pay him.
All right, so interesting. This is more of a statement than a question, but at Free Sport Travel, how can 41 bowls be decided and played in less than a month, yet schools have to schedule regular season games years in advance? I'd like to see the first week of the season scheduled in a similar way. Imagine a show where the games are decided on a random draw between predetermined conferences. Big Ten versus SEC, Big Ten versus ACC another year, games decided by lottery balls. This would be fun, create buzz in the offseason.
That'd be fun.
I think it is fun. I will say that take this out of the control of these schools, right? Pair conferences together, and let there be a scheduling system.
Randomly. Not even pairing conferences together. Randomly make these schedules.
But I like the idea. Well, they would, of course, rig it so they'd only play one another.
No,
but
it needs to really be random.
Because they do it in basketball.
Yeah.
The AAC will be in a challenge with another conference. Is it the SEC or the Big 12 or something like that? They're in that conference where some of the games are played. But imagine this season, we know that our league we're going to be against is the Big 12. Right? And you just schedule.
Yeah.
Am I boring you? What the heck?
I've been sick all week.
Jeez.
I'm yawning. I apologize.
What kind of message does this send to the audience?
It's yin and yang. I mean, my God, what do you expect?
Anyway, I like the idea. Of course, the power brokers of college football will never, ever do anything so sensible.
Thanks for calling out my yawn.
Yeah,
really
I think everybody
that.
noticed.
Well,
and we end with @Sublime_Night. The Knightline Sports Network is going to sponsor a bowl game. What is it called? Where is it played? What matchup are you trying to create?
It's played in my backyard because I have no money, to do this. But wow, that would be awesome, wouldn't it? It would obviously be the Knightline Bowl. Obviously, I'd like to play it somewhere warm. So
your backyard.
My backyard is pretty warm during the.
All right, so I'm going to deviate from the.
It's small though, so the capacity it will be sold out instantly.
To the 10, to the 15, to the 10.
In fact, the players will probably. That's all the room. That would be literally like a 10-yard field. So it will be interesting. There will be a lot of scoring. I can tell you that.
I would deviate from this question in that I would like to see a playoff system like we see at the lower level, the FCS. You've talked about this in other Division II in the playoffs, and that is what I would like Knightline Sports Network to sponsor, is the entire new playoff system.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit off the air, but Saturday I spent all my time watching the lower divisions playing. I love this time of college football because of those playoffs that Division II, FBS, or FCS, and Division III have. In fact, if you want a team to root for in one of those things, the actual University of West Florida is in the national championship game coming up. I think they play it in Texas, but if you want a team to root for, the University of West Florida is in Pensacola, beautiful location, in-state, and they're kind of like a little mini UCF in a way. I just feel like they're making their rise a lot. It would be a few years ago that they were kind of, they're not quite as big, obviously, but as far as sports and stuff, they're taking a similar path. They're in Division II right now. They were lower before. They're making their path, and they're doing a very good job at it. So if you're looking for somebody to root for in that Division II national championship, the West Florida Argonauts, University of West Florida, and they are the true University of West Florida instead of this one that says we call Southwest Florida or whatever. So root for them, go Argos, if that is the case. And I may be a little bit partial to this university because they were the first university that my stepdaughter was accepted to this week for college.
She didn't apply to Tampa, did she?
No.
Okay, good.
She was told that she absolutely could not.
Okay, well, that's the way it should be, right?
So we would disown her.
You wish her all the success in the world, but don't go there.
But never come home.
No.
If you do. Yeah, that was literally, we told her that. So It's all good.
Good supportive family. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. Hashtag Ask Knightline.
And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports.
Men's soccer, couple of notes. For the second time in his career, Cal Jennings is an All-American, making the United Soccer Coaches' first team. 5 Knights named to all East Region teams. Cal, Yoni Sorokin, and Giannis Learman named to the first team. Yannick Odell and Luis Perez made the second team. And Cal and Louis are also taking part in the inaugural MLS College Showcase. They took part in that MLS College Showcase in Raleigh, North Carolina. MLS out with a post on Twitter Sunday saying that the MLS Super Draft is been scheduled for January 9th. And when I spoke with Coach Calabrese, he said, look out, you may see some Knights in that Super Draft, including Cal, who he thinks is
he's not in it.
a top 10 pick in that draft.
Absolutely. I would be totally shocked if he wasn't in it. Volleyball sophomore McKenna Melville named to the American Volleyball Coaches Association Southeast All-Regional Team.
Get used to saying her name. She is probably the best player in the American coming back.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Only a sophomore.
Yeah, UCF football ranks 9th academically out of 78 bowl-bound teams, according to the graduation success report issued by the Institute of Diversity and Ethics in Sport that is based at UCF. UCF's 987 points put it ahead of state schools Florida, FAU, Miami, FIU, and FSU. Cows not listed. Why? Not in a bowl game. So that doesn't count. Not in a bowl game.
And that's big stuff, by the way. That's important stuff to be listed in those academic. That's a thing that UCF is very, very proud of, and they should be. And finally, speaking of academics, congratulations to another 5,800 UCF grads. Since classes began in 1968, UCF has awarded more than 345,000 degrees. Wow.
That's how much that number has jumped since we've been doing Knightline?
Yeah. But it's still a ton. It's a ton of people. It's amazing the amount of people. And Mackenzie Milton, if you didn't see it, was one of those people that graduated. Very, very cool. I was talking to his dad literally as he was walking across the stage in text messages. All right, this has been Knightline 215. Thanks for joining us. I'm Andrew Phegley.
I'm Yang. Trace Trylko. Go Knights!
Charge on.
Charge on to the field. With our spirits we'll never yield. Black and gold charge right through the line. Victory is our cry. B-S-E-T-O-R-Y.